That kills me. Talk about persuasive. Really, I was on the fence about Trump, but then I decided to really listen to one of the great generational leaders of American pop culture, and the clenched fist at the end, that really drove it home. It looked like he was pressing a 2-pound weight in a Jenny Craig commercial.
Oh my God.
Look at it again. It's so cute. It's like he found out the restaurant serves Jell-O, or that he won a $10 scratch-off, or he scored a cameo in Jersey Shore, or he had his first #2 in a week. Thank you, Fibercon. What a sad end for a great actor. He went from raging bull.
Robert De Niro just stepped into the wrong war of words, and Greg Gutfeld and Megyn Kelly didn't come to play. Hollywood's most outspoken grandpa came swinging, but got hit back with cold facts. Sharp sarcasm and a jolt of caffeine charged. Fury, Picture Two media heavyweights teaming up to school a guy who still thinks Taxi Driver is a conversation starter. Get ready. This takedown delivers more curveballs than De Niro's eyebrows when someone mentions the word accountability. And wait until you see what got torched first.
At the garbage outside today, Robert De Niro, officially sent by the Biden campaign, makes himself look like an idiot and reminds us why Trump is so popular.
It's so stupid. It was colossally stupid. If you're going to send somebody to go speak outside of the Trump trial, make it someone who's universally beloved, like a Michelle Obama. You know, she's not universally loved. She's not loved on the right. But I'm saying, like, at least within the left and the center left, and maybe even some center righties. Robert De Niro has gone so hard partisan over the past 8 years. He is like example #1 of Trump derangement.
Robert De Niro once ruled the screen. He was the man you didn't mess with. The icy stare, the quiet intensity, the slow, chilling monologue right before he buried you in Hollywood legend. But those days are gone. Now he's more like the guy shouting at pigeons in Central Park, shaking his fists at the sky, and confused about why the Oscars aren't just political soapboxes.
I find that he's smartest when they drop his audio. But, you know, it's kind of sad because you can see, like, people who are stuck in some kind of, derangement, they can't see it themselves. And they're not surrounded by people telling them that they have a problem. And they lack self-awareness because everybody either tells them they're wonderful or wants to sell them cocaine. So he has no clue what he's doing, and he's upset over the emotional nature. His anger is emotional about Trump. It's nothing.
Greg Gutfeld saw that transformation and thought, yeah, we're not letting this one slide. Because while Taxi Driver aged like vintage cinema, De Niro's off-screen persona aged more like a microwaved meatball left out in the sun. Gutfeld, never one to ignore a public meltdown, spotted the perfect target, a once revered actor now ranting in sound bites, fueled by outrage and swinging at anything that dares to breathe red state air.
So Donald's 5 years younger than Trump. And Rachel Maddow's been dressing the same for 20 years, like Wally Cleaver. The same clothes. And the star of Dirty Grandpa, Robert De Niro, getting censored by The View after raging like a bull who saw a red MAGA.
It's not that Gutfeld has a problem with actors. He just likes them better when they stick to acting, not delivering political rants mid-brunch, sweating bullets while lecturing America on how to vote, as their assistants quietly Google the capital of Vermont. Gutfeld's whole brand is built on calling out that Hollywood bubble, the gap between the red carpet and real life. And De Niro made it easy, serving himself up on a silver platter, shouting about democracy while barely remembering what state he's in.
Example #1 of Trump derangement syndrome. He's one of those, I'm moving to Canada if he wins, and he's never going to leave the White House if he wins. We're going to have Trump forevermore. I mean, hello, I hate to break it to you because I realize you're advanced age too, Robert, but people die. So he will leave. One way or the other, he's going to go. And in the not too distant future, even if Trump says he shouldn't have to. But in any event, he didn't do that the last time, Paul. Can you really picture a scenario in which Trump is more determined to hold on to power than he was at the last time in 2020, going into 2021? And what did he do ultimately? He left.
To Greg, this isn't rebellion, it's pure self-parody. De Niro has strayed so far from the script. He's no longer portraying a role, he's become the punchline. And for Gutfeld, a man who thrives on nightly monologues and has zero chill, That was an open invitation to deliver the roast De Niro never asked for, but definitely earned. Gutfeld broke down the De Niro spectacle like a caffeinated surgeon, the random outbursts. The red carpet rage fits. The eyebrows locked in eternal protest mode. He painted De Niro as a walking political Yelp review, always shouting, always dramatic, and always stuck in caps lock. Once a man who could silence a room with just a look, De Niro now struggles to finish a sentence without yelling over a ghost tweet. And that's where the real comedy kicks in. Here's the guy who played Vito Corleone's heir, yet he can't calmly handle a basic Q&A. Gutfeld jumped on every public meltdown like it was free dessert. He didn't even need to exaggerate. Niro had already done all the work. Each media appearance more off the rails than the last, every line delivered. Like a jittery stage actor trying to ad-lib the Constitution.
Kind of what Jesse said, but not really. De Niro kind of represents Hollywood in the sense that they realize that they're losing influence with the public, and that's what's generating the emotional response. They've never felt less important.
It just doesn't feel like 2016 again. We lived through that. Did they forget?
Gutfeld's take was straightforward. If Robert De Niro wants to be resistance grandpa, it's his choice. But he shouldn't be shocked when the crowd starts laughing instead of applauding. 'Cause after a while, recycled political outrage stops feeling bold and starts sounding like background noise or worse. Like an actor auditioning for relevance in a room that tuned out long ago. Meanwhile, across the media aisle, Megyn Kelly wasn't cracking jokes. She was dissecting. While Greg tossed the pies, Megyn wielded the scalpel. No loves, just precise, calculated dismantling. She wasn't chasing punchlines. She was performing a credibility autopsy. To Megyn, De Niro wasn't a jester. He was a warning, a brand unraveling, a legacy imploding. The man who once whispered chilling threats on screen was now shouting empty slogans on talk shows, and Megyn brought the receipts. She cast him as the perfect case of celebrity inflation. Fame rising so high it forgets what launched it in the first place. Her critique wasn't personal, it was clinical. De Niro, in her eyes, had become hooked on the echo of his own moral high ground. And with her trademark icy precision, she exposed just how see-through the act had become. The issue wasn't that he was angry. It was that the anger had no depth, no direction, just noise turned up to max.
Nothing at all, nothing redeemable in him. He's a sociopathic, psychopathic, malignant narcissist.
It could be tough for an actor to play such a hateful man. Someone like, I don't know, like Bernie Madoff, say. A guy who stole $65 billion from nuns and Holocaust survivors like Elie Wiesel and was sentenced to 150 years.
She made a clear distinction between real influence and empty performance. There was a time when De Niro's voice could command silence on set now. It's more like a signal for everyone to check their phones for the latest meme about him. Megyn Kelly highlighted the irony of a man who built his reputation on intense method acting. Now stumbling through public outbursts as if shouting louder somehow made his points deeper. To her, this wasn't activism, it was theatrical outrage. A Hollywood icon dressing up as a political thinker. She peeled back the tough guy image, revealing just how fragile and surface level the act had become. The same man who once made fictional mobsters tremble now crumbles at the sight of a campaign cap. Megyn wasn't attacking his film career, she was questioning how someone who once studied every character down to the bone now seemed unwilling to understand the real-world issues he ranted about. There's a difference between genuine conviction and loud performance, and in her view, De Niro had fully tipped into the latter, and she didn't flinch. She laid out what true credibility looks like: consistency, clarity, competence. To her, De Niro's latest act wasn't Brave It, was somewhere between a town crier and an emotional street preacher. And the fact that people were still calling it courageous, that to Megyn was the biggest joke of all.
Last night, an elderly, confused man went missing in New York. Luckily, a band of self-satisfied elitists found him babbling on the street, threw some pants on him, gave him a stage.
Oh my God.
I'm going to say one thing. Trump.
Greg came in blazing flamethrower style. Megyn, surgical as ever. One fired off jokes like a caffeine-fueled comic on a mission. The other carved up egos like a sushi chef with a personal vendetta. Alone, they were trouble. Together, they were a PR meteor aimed straight at the inflated legend of Robert De Niro's political globe. And no, it wasn't some planned takedown. It was pure burnout chemistry, a shared moment of clarity that the emperor wasn't just without clothes. It was sprinting across red carpets, yelling into a megaphone at parked cars. De Niro had morphed into a walking cliché of rebellion, loud, aimless noise with none of the lightning. Greg and Megyn didn't dig for dirt. They just opened the blinds. What stood there wasn't a cultural giant. It was a guy who used to light up the screen but now couldn't string a thought together. Greg made him look like a lost boomer who stumbled onto Twitter and never logged off. Megyn dissected him like a thesis gone wrong, messy, incoherent, puffed up with ego. It wasn't hate, it was disbelief. How does a Hollywood icon turn into that guy ranting on the news crawl? Like your uncle's angry Facebook post come to life.
The people shouting him down like, your movies suck. That's not true.
No, his movies are very good.
Suck. He's one of the greatest actors. I mean, he's the heir apparent to Brando, blah, blah, blah. But he's a loon.
Yeah.
I mean, you have to just say what he is. He has, basically, I describe this to people. You know what's happening now? Because people are aware about concussions and the problems with CTE. When you get hit and you get a dinger in football, they put you in the blue tent, and the sideline.
Yeah.
That's what needs to happen to Democrats. They need to go in the blue tent for a little bit, kind of, get your eyes checked, and then come out and be rational again.
Yeah, cool off
and De Niro needs to go in the blue.
And that's the core of this roast heroes, not catching heat for being outspoken. It's getting roasted because he swapped thinking for a feedback loop and blasted it at full volume. He's not rebelling anymore. He's just repeating. Himself, no fresh takes, just louder noise. The Greg and Megyn combo made one thing painfully obvious. Celebrity worship isn't just outdated, it's dead. If Hollywood's best shot at relevance is sending out a sputtering fire hydrant in a tux, barking slogans like a glitchy Siri, then it's probably time to stop pretending this is leadership. Somewhere between Raging Bull and raging on the nightly news, Robert De Niro made a sharp detour off the road to icon status and crashed headfirst into political LARPing. Once praised for his method acting, now he's just screaming on cue. The man who used to deliver more with one look than most actors could in a whole monologue can't even get through a sentence without shaking his fist at imaginary enemies in his den. And the real twist? He's not being canceled, he's being ignored, like some static-filled dad rock station stuck in the past. There was a time De Niro was cinema, the actor others watched to learn, the master of restrained intensity, the guy who made silence feel like a scream. Now just another voice, lost in the noise.
Robert De Niro graced the knitting circle in hell known as The View, where he tried to link random thoughts into a sentence. Joy was there to wind him up, since he's played some of the most unredeemable characters.
You have played some of the most really unredeemable characters. Travis Bickle. Travis Bickle was a psychopathic taxi driver. Jake LaMotta, who used to beat his wife, and he was in the Raging Bull. Is Trump worse than they are?
To me, he is.
Fast forward a few decades, and he's basically that uncle at Thanksgiving to bourbons and blaming the Wi-Fi router for inflation. He didn't just wander into political commentary. He cannonballed in mid-tantrum, shouting into the void, like it owed him back pay. While other actors aged with grace, De Niro chose to age like vinegar sharp, loud, and guaranteed to ruin the vibe at any dinner table. His legacy didn't collapse overnight. It disappeared tweet by tweet, snarl by snarl, each meltdown leaving another crack in the statue. At this point, watching him spiral isn't shocking, it's rerun territory. The guy has become a parody. of himself, and the only one still laughing is Greg Gutfeld, who practically salivates every time Niro throws him another soundbite. Greg calls it like watching the Joker try Shakespeare with a megaphone and a policy degree from a vending machine. And Megyn, she's not yelling, she's slicing. No rants, just precision. She's not here to be louder, she's here to perform. A full-blown autopsy on Niro's credibility. And let's just say it's not a clean cut. It's a death by 1,000 cringeworthy interviews. By weaponizing his fame and screaming into every mic like it's a moral podium, he's turned genius into white noise. Megyn's takedown hits hard because she doesn't exaggerate. She just highlights the obvious. Niro thinks being loud is the same thing as being right.
Robert De Niro, who's got a severe case of the TDS, is in France right now, as all of the muckety mucks are. And he's very unhappy about what Trump is doing to try to keep filmmaking, American filmmaking, in America by slapping tariffs on foreign-made films so that he can basically try to force people to make them domestically again for the American audience that they're meant to serve. And here's what De Niro said on Tuesday.
America's Philistine president has had himself appointed head of one of our premier cultural institutions. He has cut funding and support to the arts, humanities, and education.
Usually stars mellow with age. Not Niro. He went full scorched earth, set the Hollywood scrapbook on fire, and danced around the flames like a bitter pagan ritual. There's no comeback arc here, just a slow burn to ash. The audience didn't cancel him, they cleared the room. Not angry, just drained. They've seen this performance before, and this time, there's no Oscar. No applause, just long sighs and open exits. And then come the mic drops. Greg lands the first blow with a line so sharp it could use a content warning. If Robert De Niro is the voice of the resistance, then the resistance needs subtitles. He's not done. With a smirk cocky enough to be copyrighted, he throws in another jab suggesting we rename the Irishman to the irritated man. 3.5 hours of yelling, pacing, and forgetting what he was mad about in the first place. Then Megyn steps in collected.com/deadly. She drops a final line that belongs carved in stone. You can be a legend, or you can be loud, rarely both. It doesn't shout, it whispers. And somehow that lands harder. She doesn't look furious, just let down like someone who expected grace and got reality TV instead.
Being an actor is tough. For how does one handle real life without a script? Not equipped to think analytically, you're left powerless when observing your own predictions about life turn out wrong. It's not supposed to be this way, De Niro thinks. Only the cool guys get to win. Sorry, Bob. That's only in the movie.
As the screen fades to black, we get one last dose of Irania montage of Niro midrant. Veins bulging, spit flying, cut between Greg cracking up and Megyn delivering an eye roll so epic it probably registered on Manhattan's Richter scale. The final frame. Thanks for the performance, Bob. Too bad it wasn't a movie. And that's the legacy check. A film icon who tried to improvise his way through politics and ended up looking like a B-list cameo in his own unraveling. Because while Niro keeps rebooting the same tired monologue with the same worn-out scowl, Greg keeps crafting fresh punchlines. And Megyn, she keeps spotting the contradictions. This isn't just criticism, it's a full-blown analysis. Niro isn't dangerous, he's just loud. And after a while, even the loudest noise fades into background static. Greg wraps up with a smirk that almost begs Niro to blow up again just to fuel another night of comedy. To Gutfeld, this isn't a feud, it's an all-you-can-eat buffet of bloated ego. And Megyn closes the show her way. No shouting, no theatrics, just a knowing. Smirk, a soft sigh, and a quiet reminder that real intelligence doesn't need a megaphone to make an impact.
Really has thought about this, more so than his career. His choice of roles is now down to cinnamon and lobster. He was then asked about the Trump kids. At least he doesn't want my kids to take this the wrong way.
Robert De Niro might still see himself as the last word in the room, the voice of conscience, the guy who speaks up when no one else will. But outside the Hollywood echo chamber, it's starting to feel more like a rerun nobody asked for. Because when your most fired up moments feel like something out of a parody sketch, and your speeches sound like SNL political bits that didn't make the cut, Greg and Megyn don't even need to tear you down. You've already done the heavy lifting. All they had to do was show up with popcorn.